Let's talk about the key components in all the parenting structures. So the connection, let's do an activity together for the connection. Get your pen and paper ready, and inshallah, let's do this activity together. This is the first question. What is the tone of your house right now? Is the tone of your house like bickering? Is it fighting? Is it shouting? What is the tone of your house? For example, if a child falls down, what would the others do? Would they mind their own business? Or would the other kids come running and try to help that child? Is the tone caring? Is the tone of your house religious, where everybody is working to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where every incident is linked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's infinite wisdom, and everybody trusts in Allah's divine wisdom and they accept the qadr? I want you to write down some key words, some key things a stranger might explain your house like. What unites you as a family? Are you all working towards one goal? For example, you are all maybe working towards serving people around you that are in poverty, for example. Or you're all working as soldiers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, focused on da'wah. Like everybody in the house is more focused on the da'wah because that's the environment. Is everybody focused on Quran, memorizing, listening, helping each other? What's the goal you're working towards? I've written some key phrases here to help you to analyze your house. Is the tone loving? Is the tone of your house acceptance? Also, trust, also like the tone of patience and calmness. You can analyze that and write it down. Now, next question, sisters. What do you want the tone of your house to be? Is what you wrote exactly what you want? Or would you like certain elements that are missing? If they're missing, like calmness, like being religious, if those are missing, please write it down. Now, let's analyze. Is what you're doing, what you're already doing, leading to the tone of the house that you want? And if it's not contributing to that, that means you need to make that priority. That means that you need to find out the steps to take so that the tone of your house could be what you actually want it to be. All right, so the first was the connection. Under it came the tone of your house and feeling all connected and calm. The next component is the structure. Now, we all know that children thrive in structure. But structure without consistency means nothing. You have to find a structure. Ladies, not having a structure it makes kids anxious. Having predictable structure, even though sometimes it might, for example, you've set the bedtime to be 8 o'clock. Everybody knows it. Sometimes you might get your children to bed by 9 o'clock. You couldn't do it by 8 o'clock. But still, there was consistency that every day, 8 o'clock, you're expected to go to bed. So that's a structure part. Now, there are a lot of elements to structure, and first of all is pre-teaching skills. Everybody knows their responsibility. Everybody knows what's going to happen if they don't hold up their end of the bargain. So everybody knows how they're expected to act. You teach them, you rehearse with them, and you execute it with them. And then sometimes they would need to be corrected. And then there needs to be some meetings, basically meetings that are more connecting time. So what does pre-teaching skills look like? So pre-teaching skills look like, if you teach those skills to your children, ladies, I am sure that most of the behavior problems would go away. It is the behavior problems that wear parents down anyway. After all, parents are more resilient if their child doesn't do their homework because he doesn't know it. If there's an inability, then the parents are more relaxed. But if it's defiance, and if it's like, oh, I don't want to do it. If there's a laziness problem, attitude problem, there is a defiance problem, then that is when the battles happen. So if you teach your children these structures, then inshallah, you will see that all the behavioral problems start melting away. And how do you rehearse that? So once you teach them, this is the skill we're going to be learning. For example, the first skill is listening to instructions. So the steps to listening to instructions, you're going to pre-teach them. So pre-teach the skill to listen to the instructions. So what are the steps to listening to instruction? Let me tell you a story of my 2 years old. I was making breakfast. He woke up and came down. And I told him, baby, I want you to go to the toilet because he's toilet trained or in the process. So we don't want accidents to happen. So I said, baby, I want you to go to the toilet. He's very calmly, he said, no. So then the next thing I did, I pre-taught him the skill. And I said, okay, now listen, Mama's going to give you an instruction. And here are the steps to following instruction. The number one step is you're going to look at Mama and you're going to say, okay, Mama. The number 2 step is to quickly go and do it. And number 3 step is come back to me and say, Mama, I did it. Now, I know it might seem a lot for a 3-year-old to get it, for a 2-year-old to get it, but trust me, like even one day of practice and they got it. So I said, okay, now I'm going to give you instruction. So what are the steps? You're going to say, okay, Mama, I'm going to quickly do it. You're going to come back and tell me, Mama, I did it. So he said, so then I said, I'm going to give you instruction now. Your instruction is go to the toilet. Then he looked at me, he said, okay, Mama. He quickly went, he did it. And then he forgot to tell me that he did it. So I told him, okay, what's the 3rd step? You quickly went to the toilet. Here are the 3 steps. You say, okay, Mama, you quickly go to the toilet. And then you come back and you say, I did it. You did the 1st step. You went to the toilet. And you quickly, you said, okay, Mama, you went to the toilet. What's the 3rd step? So he told me, oh, Mama, I did it. So then the 3rd step is the most important one. You know why? Because you can praise them for it. And children need a lot of praise. For everything negative or for every instruction, if they get a praise for it, that is going to keep them motivated. So then, and the praise can be as simple as, wow, you did it. You followed the instructions so well. So then, like I said, you're going to praise them. You're going to, and the praise can look like this. Wow, you're just going to describe what they did. So you looked at Mama and you said, okay, Mama, you quickly went and then you came back and you told me you did it. Oh, well done, or wonderful, or good effort, or whatever you choose, the word you choose to be. And that is very effective. Ladies, everybody can learn these skills. These are real life skills. Even teenagers can learn it. If you make a structure in your house, it doesn't have to be that robotic all the time. Ladies, once they practice it, then you can just say, okay, I'm going to give you an instruction now. You don't have to repeat everything. They will know it by heart. So they will just do it. They will know the steps and they will automatically do it. Ladies, we are all programmed anyway. Most of our actions in our everyday life are controlled by our subconscious mind. We don't make conscious decisions for everything we do in a day. No, a lot of things are subconscious. So then why not program yourself and your children to do the things that are right and like follow your own instructions? For example, if you put an alarm for Fajr, then as soon as the alarm goes off, you get up and you quickly pray without engaging your emotional mind. See how this get automated and see how this is so impactful and effective, inshallah. The next step is to rehearse it with them. Did you see how I rehearsed it with my child ahead of time? Before I actually gave the instruction, told him, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is what you're going to do. So you could even rehearse it beforehand, like in the meetings, for example. In the meetings, don't make the meetings long so it doesn't become like a lecture sort of thing. Meeting is more of a connection time. But you can choose to do something silly in the meeting, some funny things, but you can also choose to discuss some important matters in the meetings. One of my most cherished memories from my childhood, or actually even my adulthood. My father, Allah yahfadhu, he had this family culture. He cultivated in us the culture of family meetings. And what would happen in the family meeting? He would have an agenda. He would want to talk about anything important. And he would ask us all about our life. Is there anything we are unhappy with? Is there anything we want to change? Or anything pertaining the household? Anything we need from each other? Anything, everything could be brought into the meeting. And we used to talk about that. Oh, and my father made it a fun meeting. So he would often bring some special treats in the meeting, so special drinks, some like special he would sometimes get mithai, which is like a sweet. So he would do that for the meeting, and they would happen regularly. So it was a very good thing to have to discuss everything important. So if you get something like that in your family, it's very important. It's very useful, inshallah. So what we are up to: pre-teaching skills, rehearsing, then executing when it's time. And sometimes you need to do the on-spot correction, or sometimes if they just choose to refuse, then you describe what happened, what should have happened. So just now I told you to go to toilet and you didn't go to toilet. What should have happened is when Mama told you to go to toilet, you should have quickly gone. You should have said, okay, Mama, quickly go to the toilet and come back and report to me. That should have happened. So the consequence for me, for my 2 years old, obviously, is that I'm going to take him myself. Or for older children, for their defiance, the consequences could be different. And inshallah, we're going to talk about those consequences later. But in short, so the consequences should be explained in advance. And these are the things that can be discussed in meetings. So what are the consequences going to be if a child refuses to listen? And I recommend a consequence to be chores of the house. For example, like my 5 years old, if he refuses to do something, so I will say, okay, now for the consequence, I would have you wipe the table clean, and then you come and tell me that you've done it. So the child then goes and wipes the table and comes in and says, I've done it. So we then circle back to the original instruction again, say, okay, now you need to go to the toilet, for example. This is what you should do, is what you say, when I tell you, you need to say, okay, mama, quickly do it. Come back and tell me. They come back and tell me, I praise them. Even when they finish their consequence, I praise them again. For that as well, I praise them for immediately complying and doing their consequence calmly and happily. So I praise them for that as well. So first of all, what you can do is you can do the on-spot behavior correction. The more predictable your reaction is for kids, the more they know in advance what's going to happen, the more effective it is long-term. So then you need to decide on the structure. You need to know what consequences you're going to be using ahead of time. So then you don't need to resort to yelling and shouting and hitting or abandoning them in a timeout where they feel rejected. So if I don't behave well, I'm no longer loved and I am rejected. So I don't recommend that at all. Let me give you an example for the correction. So this is not a consequence, right? This is a correction. This can happen before a consequence. If I'm teaching a lesson in my house and a child decides to interrupt. I'm doing my homeschooling session. One of the children is misbehaving. They start to interrupt. They start laughing, pointing at somebody. So then what I can do is describe what is happening. All right, so I'm teaching my lesson right now, and you have chosen to laugh and interrupt. What should have happened is that you should have listened to mama, because it's not respectful for me. I am teaching. I'm trying to make it fun for you. It's not respectful for your brothers, because now they want to listen. But because you are making sounds and making noises, they're not able to focus either. So I will inshallah give you a break to, like, in 5 minutes. For younger kids, I don't even keep homeschooling that long anyway. The explanation sessions need to be small. Anyway, so in 5 minutes, we're going to have a break anyway. You can talk. You can do whatever you like in that break. But right now, the respectful thing to do, listen quietly. Are you ready? Once we start the lesson again, I'm going to move on, and I'm not going to be thinking about it. I suggest you move on as well. You don't think about it as well in your head. So this is another skill of letting it go. So that I don't want the child to keep feeling bad about being corrected. I don't want them to feel thinking about what they did. I want them to now, let's move on and focus. So I say then, okay, we're going to say, okay, I'm going to move on and I'm going to continue teaching. And the child will say, okay. So we move on and I praise them as soon as you see improvement. So this is one step for the consequence. So it's on-spot behavior correction. Now let's go to consequences. Now it's important that the consequences are done with connection. Otherwise, they just feel like harsh punishments. And it's also important that your children know ahead of time what consequences can be applied. So the elements of the consequence now is sometimes the consequences can be, or these are the options of consequence. Sometimes the consequences can be natural. So what is a natural consequence? For example, you told your child that it is rainy outside, and if they wear a certain shoe, they might slip a lot. It has no grip. So you told them to wear a different shoe. They chose to ignore your instruction. They chose to ignore your command. Then the natural consequence is you take them outside, they're falling a lot. Well, that is a natural consequence. You don't really have to do anything. Their choice doesn't really impact you a whole lot. That's fine. Let them experience the natural consequence. But then, what if you give your child a consequence and they even choose to ignore the consequence, which is a chore? So you give them a chore and they choose to ignore that chore. So then the third step could be, and also it could be, and this needs to be discussed ahead of time, not on the spot, as ideal to do in the meetings. And that is, you're going to explain to them how things work in real world, that privileges only come with responsibilities. So you tell them their basic rights are food, clothing, shelter, love, and safety. And ladies, never take that away from your children in any circumstance. And no matter how horribly they're behaving, do not take away the basic rights, the food, clothing, shelter, love, and safety. However, you can take away their privileges if they're not doing the responsibilities. What are the things that are privileges? Basic food is a right, but nice food is a privilege. Sometimes, if you choose not to follow instruction, then you choose to lose a privilege. And also for kids, remember, A big privilege is to be able to play with their things, with their toys, with their siblings, with their friends. So being able to play, the children are really, really defiant. You can actually remove the privilege of them being able to go outside and play, for example, if you have a back garden, or them being able to play with their toys. So essentially, until they agree to do the consequence, you can take away their privilege and say, okay, since you've not chosen to do the consequence, now you've chosen the privilege. You're not going to present it as something that happened to them. You're going to present it as a choice. They themselves are choosing it. They either choose to do their responsibilities or they choose to let go of the privilege. Now, ladies, this is how real world works anyway. There's no way in the world you can enjoy all the benefits without taking the responsibility, without doing the hard work. For example, if you really, really want to eat pizza, unless you have prepared it yourself with the hard work, you're not going to be able to enjoy that privilege. Or if you've not worked hard to earn enough to afford that pizza, you're not going to be able to enjoy the privilege. This is simple as that. If you don't pay the electricity bill, you're not going to be able to enjoy electricity. Simple as that. So in real life, if you don't do the hard work, you're not going to enjoy the benefits that come with it. So taking away their privileges is not cruel. It is realistic. Does the loss of privilege have to be mentioned in the meeting even for kids under 5? Yes, my dear sister. Do mention the loss of privilege, even if you think that they might forget it. It is okay. Just sit with them and explain to them. Then it is going to click when it's happening in real time. And it's not going to feel unfair to them, especially if you use the empowering language. What is the empowering language? You're going to use the language, you chose to ignore my command, my instruction. So you chose the consequence, which is you're going to lose the privilege. So they know that the choice is theirs. So now if they don't like this, they can choose to follow the command, right? It is empowering. I've put this for you so you can read it in your own time, inshallah. I will share this slide in my empowering mothers group, inshallah. You guys can read it on your own. So what the things that you want to say and do and the things that you want to avoid. So when you give a command, don't say, do it because I said so, because that's controlling. That doesn't teach responsibility. That doesn't teach accountability. That breeds defiance. Instead, what you can say, though, is the rule is that you need to follow the instruction, or the rule is that you, when I give you a command, that this is what you need to do. And here's your responsibility. You know what to do. So, or for example, the rule is that everybody needs to help with the household chores. Everybody needs to do their part. And once everybody is eaten, the rule is they wash their own dishes. That's the rule in this house. And now you know what to do. So principle based is predictable. So like that, you can see if the consequence you're giving is just, it is good, it's going to teach accountability, or is it going to be controlling and bad for them? So look at the long-term outcome. For control-based parenting, they will learn the external obedience. And they will obey only when the parent is watching. When the parent is not watching, they're going to do sneaky behaviors. But if you do the accountability-based parenting, then you're teaching them self-discipline, and the child starts linking the choices to natural results, which is what we want. We want them to be self-disciplined.